Yeah, so we're basically we're attempting to record this like little bonus thing about me escape from Tel Aviv, I guess, to try and relate it to like to the to a movie. I guess we can sort of start it like I'm sort of curious as a jumping off point, like how was it? Because it was, for a change, I was there when this war broke out, as opposed to being here. Like, how was the news on Saturday, on that Saturday? Did you I guess it was Saturday evening here, if I'm not mistaken. So like, was there like what was the first moment that you heard, and what did you think it was? Like, was there, they get into more than just the bombings? Like they knew right away, or like it was unclear?
From my view, it seemed like it seemed like it was going to be similar to the same flare up. To put it mildly, I mean, it seems like there's no proper word to talk about how gross these escalations tend to be. But I recalled a few years ago, I think it was 2021, when the last major escalation happened, and uh, I mean, honestly, I thought of it originally of when the first reports were coming out. Well, first of all, my God, my friend is there, but also
Oh, this time around, yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah, it the reporting didn't really do justice to what was going on until probably the next day or the day after, and especially on our side, uh, you know, it, it's always bizarre
Yeah, and we're
in
actually
terms
forward
of
there. So it was 6:30 in the morning there. It was late in the evening here or something. Yeah,
right.
when it broke out.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but it's always a mess when something like this happens, um, especially because there are so many people who are ready to go out and question anything that might be something evil that Hamas is doing, and so like the kibbutz massacre. I don't even think that that was reported on until like 2 or 3 days after it happened, and uh, everybody got into this discussion of the reports of the beheadings of babies, and everybody on one side of the argument was saying, Israel said that they can't confirm the allegations, and it's just like, well, okay, it's a war. Like everybody's rattled. Some people might have misreported. They haven't confirmed that it didn't happen. We have confirmed that the kibbutz massacre happened. We know that there are dead babies. I mean, are you going to say that it's better that they were stomped to death or burned to death? Does that make the people who killed them better? I it was just something that was throwing me, off the wall, that people would be like nitpicking at that issue, and then but yeah, I mean, I think it was a couple days after uh, the the attack happened that even stuff like that was arising, um, at least in the media here. But and I think that I'm fairly accurate about that, because if something pops up about Israel, I'm usually going to read it. But I don't know.
It was a bit of a
It's
slow burn here. It sounds like the way they dripped information.
Yeah, and yeah, it took a couple of days to realize that this is not just another day. This is not just another Hamas attack. This is not just another normal thing where you know Hamas is going to go out and try to kill as many Jews as they can, which they always do, and Israel is just going to put it down. It took a couple of days before I really it really sunk into me like no, they really caught Israel off guard here.
No, but it definitely it felt it very much feels like, well, when you're like in a war situation, it does feel like a movie. Maybe that's how it can relate to it, because like it was 6:30 in the morning. I was still dealing with jet lag because I landed on Wednesday morning and I still didn't have time to recover by Saturday morning. I was barely like that was going to be the day that I could potentially recover finally. And
Yes.
6:30 in the morning, and the alarm tower is very close to where my parents live. It just like goes and it's like really loud. It's like right outside my window. It feels like very very loud. And I sleep with the window open because it's really hot in Israel and they don't turn the AC on. It actually doesn't work. They stop working. They have a ceiling fan in the room that I sleep in. But yeah, so I thought it was a dream. I thought it was a nightmare. I thought it was like me, like because I'm back in Israel, maybe I'm dreaming about the Gulf War, the whole like when there are like all the missiles coming from Iraq. We used to get those alarms all the time when I was a kid. And and also I had this like weird moment that like, oh shit, I might die. Like I had this like moment of like, is this like some serious bomb that's gonna drop and like I won't be able to escape it. Like you just don't know. And so we just got up and we kind of like went and we're all lazy in my family. We don't go because the building is old fashioned. You don't go we don't have a safe room. A lot of modern construction, they have one room within the apartment that's a safe room that's fortified that you can go into and sit, and it's a safer spot to be if a bomb drops. Um, my parents don't have that. Basically, there's a joint basement to the building. You have to go down 3 floors, and nobody would do that. So what we do is they say the second safest thing is to go to the middle of the building where the staircase is. But we're even lazier than that. So what we did, we just like hung out in the hallway between the rooms, essentially just being away from any walls and any glass that might like explode in our faces, essentially. Um,
Mhm.
so, and we're on the third floor. So if a bomb usually hits from above, it would like go. The building is like 5 floors, so like fifth, fourth. Hopefully, we get lucky; it doesn't go all the way to third floor. So we're just kind of like risking it. But yeah, and that's what we did for like a few minutes, and then very soon after, I think once the news kind of like got all gathered, like we just put the TV on and there was essentially a newscast started and did not end until I left Israel. It was literally there's no commercial breaks, there's no anything. There's one table and just rotating people, rotating anchors, rotating specialists and analysts and basically and then we had that channel on like just all day long and slowly as the morning progressed like we heard news of the invasion too and like the killings and at first it started like 20, 30 people so that, okay, thankfully like oh maybe it's just like a few like 100 terrorists came in and like but then hours went by and there was still no reports of the army getting there and then from thinking that it was 100 terrorists all of a sudden it's like it ballooned to like it might be 1,000 and then from 20, 30 people it ballooned to like maybe 100, 200 and the injured like went up and stuff and once they found out about the party too and it's just like one thing to the next it's just escalated and it was funny because there was like a 6 pack of beer in the fridge that morning and by like 2 3 p.m. it was like done. It was gone, and we already went to like the next six pack between like me, my brother, and my mom. I was just like stressed. Like you just like I literally just like what I did. I started drinking. I was like I was sitting in the hallway, stressing out about the alarms and the bombs. Like there's booms left and right. You know, not like where we were, but like a few miles away, so you can hear it, and it shakes. It shakes the windows a bit. And what are you gonna do? You just sit and you just you know sip beer. What else are you gonna do? And then the most surreal thing is like when it was lunchtime, um, it was like around 12, 1 p.m. It's like, so what do we do? Do we sit down and eat? You know, there's like a war going on. People are like dying, and you don't know what to do because you're supposed to. There's nothing you can really do aside from staying put. So we sat down to eat, and as the family that we are, we often argue over meals. My brother was really took it very, very hard, the whole situation, and he doesn't tend to when there's strictly bombing, but this time he really like more than us or anybody at that time. He kind of knew that this is much, much worse than everybody thinks it is,
Mhm.
and and me and my mom were like, well, it's still 20, 30 people. I can only hope that it's not as bad and that they'll get there quickly because the army was still not getting there by lunchtime. And he like just exploded on us. Are you nuts? They fucking massacred us. It's like they butchered like whole families in their homes. Like, are you nuts? That those numbers, they're afraid to say higher numbers. Like they have no idea how big this is gonna be. And he was right. A few hours later, the numbers just grew and grew. But we didn't mean any offense by what we said. We were just hoping for the best. But it was just such a high stress situation, and he was like, it's like, what are you sitting? You're eating while people are being massacred. He was eating with us too, but it was just, it's this like moment of like, it just doesn't feel right. It's sort of like survivor's guilt of
Yeah.
sorts, of like, we can't be sitting here in a civil way and eat our lunch when there's people actively being massacred, you know? It's just such a surreal like experience, and there's nothing you can really do about it because you're supposed to stay put. And on top of everything else, my older sister, and we were in touch with my younger sister in Tel Aviv. My older sister keeps Shabbat, so she doesn't check her phone. so
Mhm.
and later on in the day, like when it was time to go to synagogue for the end of Shabbat, her husband and her kids walked a 15-minute walk to the synagogue because they didn't know
Ooh.
there was a war going on. They thought, oh, there was some
Wow.
alerts and some bombing, but they were used to it. And if there hasn't been any bombs or alerts in the last few hours, which there was a short period in the evening that there was not as many, it was like, it's okay to go to synagogue, right? We've had this before. They had no idea about the invasion, about the massacre, about anything. Like, and at that time, there was like alerts that there might be people coming through the beach to Ashdod, to like our city. It's like they're like actual terrorists, like rummaging in the streets, like literally a mile and a half away from where we live, like where there's this ruins of
Mhm.
this. There's this beach that has like ruins from like biblical times, and there was an alert that a boat of terrorists like landed there at some point. But in any case, yeah, it was like very weird. And then finally Shabbat was over and we texted her like, where are they? They're in synagogue. And my dad was in synagogue, but the synagogue is like to our house is across the street. It's like a minute walk. So it's fairly safe to go back and forth. But them, they're walking from 15 minutes away. So we just told them, just make sure they go directly home from the synagogue and nowhere else. And they made it home okay and stuff. But it was just like some of this like just surreal kind of stuff. And there's like, the following days there's more stupid stuff like that. Like my younger sister, like the same evening she got tired of being stuck at home, they went to a park in Tel Aviv,
Oh my
like
God.
for the kids, because they got tired of like sitting at home. And then the next day they drove to Jerusalem to her husband's parents because they're like they wanted a change of scenery. Like what fucking change of scenery? There's like bombs dropping, and there's like terrorists in the country. Like you're supposed to stay at home and not go anywhere. And my dad, like on the third day, I think it was, or something, like he went to get like his blood checked or something for his diabetes, and And then because he was already out, like he went and opened his store. It's like, what the fuck are you opening your store? There's no customers. Like there's barely people out. Like, and then while he was like waiting at the bus stop to catch a bus back home because he realized it's stupid to be out there, like midday he's headed back. Two huge bombs landed in our city, and I don't know if by now she's dead, but like it fatally injured like this elderly lady that was out and about. It's like that could have been him. Like he was at a bus
Yeah.
stop when these two landed. Like luckily it was miles from him, so he was okay. But it's just the
Wow.
kind of stuff that like you think about is like he could have died that day. You know, he was out and about, and then two bombs landed in our city, not outside of the city. It's just a matter of like a mile here, a mile there, and you could be dead. But yeah, there was like one time that I I wanted to go visit my sister's kids because they were stuck at home all day, and there was not a lot of alerts that day. I think it was like on the second or third day. So I just ran between the places, like a 15-minute walk. If I run it, it's like 5 minutes. But I felt like, that's not that risky if there hasn't been any alerts in the last hour or two. And then once I got to her an hour later, lo and behold, there are some bombs dropping, and I stayed put. They have a newer apartment, so and their place is actually more convenient because the room is inside the apartment. But yeah, it's just like such a weird, except for like when I was there during the Gulf War, like it's a very weird thing to be in a war zone, like in a war like situation like that. It's
It's
very
crazy.
trippy.
I don't want to sound like I'm in any way making light of anything, but I mean it's kind of telling when you think about it how you you and your whole family, it's like this is happening, and there's kind of this almost like, in a way, almost like a nonchalant like thing about it, like it's because it's so normal. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the what the stories said about like the British people and during World War II when there's the bombings, they sort of just went about their day because like what else can you do? Like, what are you going to stay
Yeah.
home for months? Like the war went on for years. And the only thing you can do is like keep an eye out for alerts and then try to like what I did on the run back from my sister. Um, they told me just take the longer way because I used the shortcuts. That's 5 minutes. Like take the longer way. It'll take you 7, 8 minutes to run it, but run along the buildings. So if there's like an alarm or an alert, you can just jump into the building. So you have some cover. It's like, fine, I'll do that. So you do things that like maybe are slightly, would be safer if something happens. But you have to. I mean, I was there. Why not visit with them and
Yeah. Yeah.
hang out for a few hours because they're like very close by. But yeah, it's a very strange situation. And then the making it out. That's a whole other story. But just the whole idea that like it is basically like being in some sort of movie because it's like a heightened reality thing. It really is. It's until you're like in that situation, you don't realize that like how fragile life is. You know.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture like the thing you said of like your parents' building has like the one room downstairs or something, and like trying to picture you all talking it out and just going like, eh, if the bomb hits, it'll probably hit the top floor. Like, well, we're gonna stay here in the living room or something. Whatever you said, like in
Yeah,
the
you basically
stairwell or
kind of
something.
risk it.
You're,
And then
you're
of
kind of
all
like
things,
you're weighing the options or something. It's like,
and then like
wow.
it was 2, 3 days into the war, and one afternoon there was like this huge boom. It was louder than any of the bombs that's dropped until up until that point. I thought it was like an atom bomb. Like what the fuck did like Hamas get their hands on? Like I really thought that there was like some special weapon they're waiting to use. But then it started raining. It was like some crazy like thunder, and lightning that like was going on, and it was louder than the actual bombs. It's like, of all the times for like a fucking loud thunder to be like,
Wow.
it's like during like a wartime when it stresses you out that it might be like some sort of like I don't know, like a mini like A bomb of sorts or something. I don't know that they're
Jeez.
dropping on us. But but yeah, like it's just like every little thing is just stresses you out. But
Mhm.
yeah, and I was like, and then in that mode to make my way out of there, to like, start making phone calls to try and get a flight out because all the Delta flights were being canceled. It was, that whole story was just so like stressful. I can try to sum it up in like 5 minutes, and then we can move on. Basically, Wednesday morning I had a flight to Paris, and from Paris I'm supposed to take a connecting flight to LA. And but I noticed that my flight, which is every day, has been canceled. It was canceled Saturday morning, obviously, Sunday morning, um, Monday. So I saw that they're being canceled every time. So I said, I'll wait till Tuesday morning. I'll see if my Wednesday flight is canceled. And as soon as it's canceled, I'll start looking for flights. And if I can't find a flight, I'm just going to go to the airport and just get on like waiting lists and just try my best to. And I called Delta and they said, like, yeah, basically, if you can get to Paris in time for your flight on Wednesday afternoon, do that, because you have the flight, you have the ticket. It's just that there's no flights with Delta out of Israel, but there's with other airlines, especially the Israeli ones. So luckily I didn't have to wait for Tuesday morning. Monday afternoon, I got an email from Delta that the flight was officially canceled the Wednesday morning. So I immediately went on the website, started looking for flights, and yeah, I called the U.S. Embassy too in Israel. They weren't like helpful. It was like a stupid, like it was like Columbus Day, like Indigenous
Oh
People
my
Day, so
God.
they're closed. But I still made it through to someone because it was like, if it's urgent, press 1. So, and I did press 1, but they said like they were still not arranging any flights yet for American citizens. So just see if you can find a flight with someone else. And every time I was clicking on a flight that I saw, it was mostly Turkish Airlines and like Czech Airlines that were doing flights out of Israel. Every time I click on a ticket, sold. It's like concert tickets in LA, like because everybody was like, like trying to find like the next ticket out of Israel, and then out of the blue, like my younger sister who was like in Jerusalem with the husband's parents, of my like brother-in-law's dad, like he's a tour guide and he knows travel agents. So she connected me with his travel agent, who was really good at getting tickets, and she was able to give me a ticket. It's just when I was about to give up on making a flight on Tuesday, and I would have to take one on Wednesday and miss my flight in Paris, and then I would have to like wait for the next day or the next day to catch the next flight. Luckily, she was able to find some flight on Tuesday that would get me to Paris in the evening, and then I would just stay overnight, and then the next day I would have my flight that was already scheduled. So, but the ticket that she found was with Turkish Airlines going through Turkey to Paris. There's a stop in Turkey, and I need to like take a taxi with an hour drive between airports. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And just then there was alerts that Israelis should keep a low profile in Turkey because it's a Muslim country, and whenever there's like escalation, they're not happy about Israelis being there. Like there was already like some alert, like in Egypt, there was a bus that was like attacked or something with Israeli tourists. So I was like, she got me the ticket already. I said yes already. Let me just, I'll keep my head down. I'll play it off as like I'm an American. I have an American passport. I'm not Israeli. I'm not Jewish. Um, so I went to that flight like very early in the morning, like 3 in the morning or something. My brother took me. The flight was delayed 3 hours because of bombing alerts, which meant it made it tighter and tighter for me to make my connecting flight in Turkey. I get to Turkey. Turkey is also stupid. Like I go to like the customs line, and the line is very like 20 minutes long. I get to the end of the line and say, "Where's your visa?" Like, what do I need a visa? I'm just catching a taxi to the next airport, and getting the fuck out of here. He's like, no, you need a visa. And then he showed me like this little window that's off to the side and nobody could see where you're supposed to get your visa to enter Turkey for 1 hour. So I go back there. It's like $30 to get a visa.
Yeesh.
Just like a cash grab. So and then I wait in line another 20 minutes for the customs thing. Meanwhile, I already like gave up on like, making my flight because it was just between the 3-hour delay and this, like it just wasn't going to happen. And the Wi-Fi there was terrible. Most airports in the world have free Wi-Fi and it's fairly easy to log into it. But Turkey has this stupid thing where they're supposed to text you something, but how can they text you if you don't have a connection in their country? It's a really stupid thing. Or you have to find a computer where it can give you a code. Come on, people. So in any case, I finally was able to log into the Wi-Fi somehow, and I had to activate my phone in Turkey, like just to get a text so I can do it. And I was messaging with like Diana, and she was like, "Oh, there's a flight like an hour later, and there's another flight in the evening to Paris. So if you don't make yours, just go to ticketing and do that." And then I go outside once I get through customs. And the travel agent told me specifically, just make sure you take the yellow taxis because there's a lot of like really like, sort of like risque taxis and a lot of like hustlers there. Like just go to the yellow taxis because those are the government issued taxis. So some guy immediately tried to pull me to some shuttle taxi, and I told him I can't. I have to like make my flight. I'm really in a rush. And then I was like, there's 2 yellow taxis. He was trying to push me to one of them. I was going to take the other one that he didn't push me to, but I was just trying to not create any conflict. I just went with it. I went with the guy that he recommended because it was still a yellow taxi. And the whole like 1 hour drive was just a nightmare. Like, and we didn't discuss price or anything. They told me it was supposed to be around like $50-$60. So I changed $80 to Turkish money just to have it available with some buffer. We get there an hour later, terrible taxi ride. He kept the windows down. He wanted to smoke. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I just want to get the fuck there. And then we get there and I'm like, I ask him how much it is. And he's like, he put down like 2,700 liras or something, which my $80 changed to like 2,200 liras. So he was asking for more than that. So I gave him what I had, and I said like, "Well, can I give you the rest in dollars?" And oh yeah, sure. Like he said, and he was looked in my wallet, and luckily I keep my money. I spread my money in different pockets in my backpack, and I leave only like $40-$50 at a time in my wallet, just in case somebody robs me. But he basically said, just give me the 50. That's going to be fine. And 50 is way more than what he was asking for. It should have been more like 20 extra. But I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to go negotiate with this guy. Like, he's going to fucking drive away with my suitcase in the back of his taxi. I don't give a shit. Like, this is not a time to negotiate. So I just gave him the money, took my suitcase before he didn't even come out to help me get it out. That's how much of an asshole he was. Like, he helped me get it in just so I can go with his taxi. But as soon as he got his money, I'm not moving, dude. You get your own like suitcase out of your, whatever. So I go in. And I know I've already missed my flight. I go to ticketing. Took 40 minutes. They finally like said, well, too late to give you the 1 hour later flight, obviously, because it took you 40 minutes to even process this stupid thing. So we'll give you the evening flight, which was like 4 hours later. So I spent this whole 4 hours in the Turkish airport waiting for this flight. And and the Wi-Fi being stupid. I ended up, there was like 1 hour free if you do the whole stupid login. And then if you want an extra 2 hours, it's like €6, which is like $10. Like, fine, you assholes, I'll do that. I'll just pay the money, like whatever. I just need the Wi-Fi to communicate with people, to let them know what's going on with me. Because everybody was like messaging Diana, like my sister. Anyways, I finally make it on that flight. Lo and behold, again got delayed, not because of Israel bombings or anything, just because Turkish airline fucking sucks. But finally we get to like Paris at like 11 p.m. I try to find like a Delta counter just to make sure that my ticket for tomorrow is still available. And I even logged in when I was on the Wi-Fi in Turkey between flights. I was checking to see, and it still showed that my flight in Israel is canceled, but that my second flight still shows as active, meaning that I have a ticket for it. So I couldn't find a Delta counter just to verify this because Dana recommended that I do that. And I was like, okay, listen, I'll just go to the hotel. I reserved the hotel because we knew it was going to be an overnight. The agent helped me with that. It was like 6 minutes away from the airport. I took a taxi. It was like a funny taxi ride too, because like the guy asked for like 10 euros, and I pulled out like the one bill in my wallet that was like a Turkish money. I gave him like a 10 lira bill, which is basically like giving someone 10 cents compared to like what a 10 euro is. And he laughed about it and he was nice about it. And I gave him the right bill and everything was fine. But yeah, I made it to the hotel. I logged into my computer. I kind of like just wanted to check a few things, before I rest up. So I go on the Delta website, and this is the big kicker. The flight is no longer there.
Oh,
from Paris to Los Angeles. There is a flight 6 hours from that point, meaning Wednesday morning, because it was Tuesday night when I got to Paris. Wednesday morning, Delta, just within the last hour or two, scheduled a flight from Israel to Los Angeles.
oh my God. Direct?
Direct. So all the
Holy
crap
shit.
I went to, and $500-$600 of plane ticket, taxi ride, hotel room, all the crap that I went to just to make the original flight that I had was for nothing. Like if I just sat on my ass in Israel and just like called Delta every few hours, eventually, and the thing is, this thing was updated on the website, but they never send an email or a text or anything saying that this has been updated. Like I had to discover this 6 hours before the flight was going to leave Israel. So I might have missed it as it is. Like I guess they assume that because people would just call or check the website every few hours until there's a flight available, but who the fuck does that? And they didn't give me any impression that this was going to happen. They basically told me like, listen, if you can make it to Paris, just make it to Paris. So not only did I go through all this for nothing and almost double the cost of my trip to Israel for nothing, I also didn't have a ticket for the next day flight from Paris. That like if somebody were to buy the ticket that got released by Delta, I wouldn't have a seat.
Yeah.
So I had to get to the airport early in the morning. I didn't get there super early, but I got there like at 9 a.m. The flight was at 1. I left at like 9. I got there like 9:15, 9:30. I went straight to ticketing, obviously again, because I didn't have a ticket anymore because of Delta.
Yeah.
And luckily it seems like nobody bought that seat, because like it seems like I got the exact seat that I put in my request when I booked the flight. So I was able to get the seat, waited for my flight, and finally got on the plane and made it back. But I'm telling you, when I like logged in and saw the flight, the direct flight from Israel, that was like a movie moment for me as well. Like that was like, oh my God, that's like the hero's journey type of thing. And then like in the heartbreak, like in the end, like I went through all of this. It's like since 3 a.m, I'm like on flights, connecting flights, like shady taxis. For what? Like I could have like saved all that shit if I had known that there's like a remote possibility Delta would like, save the day in the last minute.
It's like a really unfunny version of the mom in Home Alone.
Yeah, maybe. But in any case, I try to like keep it short, but it's yeah.
Wow.
That's the story. It's it's heartbreaking. I wanted to cry when I was there in the hotel room. I just wanted to cry. And like the next morning I said like fuck this. I'm not going to lose like my joy in the morning. There was a bath in the hotel room. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to take a nice warm bath. I'm going to relax, and I'm going to get to the airport at 9 a.m. That's 4 hours before the flight. That's plenty of time to figure things out. I'm not going to like make myself suffer any longer than necessary because of everything that I've been through.
Wow.
Anyways, it just really sucks. But in any case, yeah, I felt like I don't know why. First of all, I was recovering the first few days back, but also I felt like, for one thing, people are going through much worse horrors in this conflict. For me to like whine about like what I've been through. I mostly thought that it's kind of a crazy story, if nothing else. And the thing that I wrote down, I kind of said how like anything I'm going to say here is not going to be remotely close to the horrors that people are going through, but I'm just one person with my own little story in this like conflict, and it's unfortunate, but I just found it to be a very amusing story considering all the stuff that I went through. Just it's not as if I just took a different flight that was as convenient as what I had planned originally, which was supposed to be like Israel to Paris, Paris to LA. It was way, way worse, and it had so many twists and unnecessary twists and turns. But
You
yeah,
could, Gil, you could, add a little to it, spice it up a little, write a quick script about it, and call it like first world problems in a war torn world or something like that.
yeah. No, it does feel a little bit like a short story of sorts. Like that's
Yeah.
the way I sort of wrote it out. It's quite long. I try to abbreviate it. I cut a lot of stuff out, but yeah, no, it's just some really stupid stuff. But yeah, and also like the whole like thing, like I was like Monday morning, I was binge drinking Saturday and Sunday. Like I think I drank like 6, 7, 8 drinks each day. Like I had 2 sessions of drinking throughout the day, and I was like, which I don't normally do. This is not my habit of drinking. So I decided, like, I woke up like on Monday morning and I said, like, you know what? I'm not drinking a single drink today. I really need to get the fuck out of here. So I need to be very goal oriented today. So so I sobered myself up. But that was like another like sort of like a tidbit of like just the mindset that I had there. Like I just drunk myself silly for like 2 days just because of stress and just not knowing what to do with myself and being stuck at home.
You were like Randy Quaid in Independence Day. You're like
Yeah,
guzzling
exactly.
down coffee, going like, hell of a day to stop drinking.
Yeah, more coffee, more coffee.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Keep it coming, keep it coming.
Sounded a bit like Children of Men.
Which part?
All of it.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the specific. Yeah.
Yeah, Children of Men is like
Yeah.
definitely nothing close to that as far as like what I specifically went through, but as far as like the stress involved for sure. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, like I was very surprised when I got here and like I realized that it was like that's the way it's being skewed because and I guess like I was like yeah because by the time I came back there was the bombing from the Israel side, so that's why like people immediately jumped. But in that one day or so were just like slaughtering. I guess it just dripped very slowly here, but like when you hear just slaughtering on one side and Israel hasn't reacted yet, how can you not? You know?
Some people didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty messed up situation all around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I I have a lot to say about this, and it's not relevant.
Yeah.
So I'll. But
Yeah, but
I
mostly
mean,
it is very weird that like people have no qualifiers. That like people will just
Yeah.
say like, well, whatever Hamas did is fine with us because we're on their side. Like the fact that like people just don't have qualifiers, like just
Yeah.
say like even Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, who's extremely pro-Palestine, even he said like stop the violence on both sides. Like then he
Yeah.
says some really stupid stuff about like there should be a one state, which will never happen. But the least you can do is say like Hamas should have done it that specific way. Like it's just like not cool the way
Yeah.
they did this specific attack, even if you're on their side.
I mean, you know what Thomas Sowell said, right? Several years ago when he was asked, what do the Jews need to do to like make the world stop hating them? He said one word, and that was fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and 6 million of them had to die for them to get any sympathy.
I was just gonna say, Gil, like the only one of the reasons I was just suggesting that we even recorded it all and everything was like talking about the whole thing and just thinking like, here we got Waltz with Bashir coming out soon, and will already be out by the time this ever comes out, and then also the Golda episode, and it's like I remember when we were recording that one in particular, talking about watching the movie and thinking like being confused because it wasn't until 15-20 minutes into the movie that I realized that that movie was about the Yom Kippur incident and that was not even the not even the time that all these countries ganged up on Israel and tried to wipe you out, you know. And I was like, oh, this is like a totally different incident, like a whole generation later, you know, or decade later, or whatever.
Well,
No,
it wasn't.
that's precisely what I'm saying. My point is that at the time when we recorded that, I made some comment about, gosh, this happens all the time. Like, this is ridiculous. And then not even a month later after recording that, like Yom Kippur comes around and they do it again. It's like crazy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not exactly the same thing, obviously, you know, but it's just, you know, rockets and death and destruction.
Yeah, no. A lot of people immediately compared it to Yom Kippur, and then the 9/11 comparison started too.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like it's because they did it on a Sabbath, and there was a holiday that evening. So it's basically the same thing as Yom Kippur because they knew that a lot of people will be on vacation, and yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like 9/11 comparisons, you know, when it comes to population, what you all experienced in Israel is worse than what we experienced in terms of body count.
Yeah,
Yeah.
per capita.
Like,
Oh, that too.
far worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, although it's definitely bad in the sense that like just nobody could fathom. I guess the one thing they said is that like 9/11, nobody can fathom that happening. This actually was very realistic that it would happen, and it's so weird that there was not enough um, uh, defense in place, like fail safe, like
Response.
the response too, but just because like they broke through the barricade and the wall, and they disconnected the wiring and the electricity. That's why the alerts were delayed. You know, a lot of things that they did, and they were very smart about it. Somebody really like mastermind this whole thing to where it bought them a lot of time before there was a response. But generally, yeah, there's just not enough military presence there. Like it's a bunch of like towns that are around Gaza, and there's not enough military presence there because they never anticipated that it would be like they thought maybe 10, 20 terrorists will like, you know, try to kill a few people. That's been like their pattern, but not 1,000. 1,000 is like an army.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the border with the West Bank is a lot longer. I mean it takes up a lot more mass and so on and so forth, and you know, and Hezbollah seems to be a slightly more organized organization. That seems to be redundant, but
well, Hezbollah is like in the north, and the West Bank, doesn't really have any like terrorist group per se. Like it's been more moderate in recent years.
Oh yeah, that's
true. But Gaza is like it's like you know, it's a very small area, so there's like they spend $1 billion building this very sophisticated wall and like alert system, and it just failed them miserably. It's very it's very very bad.